Hello, good evening. Welcome, my friends. Welcome, lovers of liberty, observers of reality. Welcome as this thing starts once again. Back with the flickering, ding-a-ling. Good evening, friends. Good evening, Mama Bear, Jacinta Chadwick, Colette Brown, Michael John Dennis, Marco Biagio, famous Italian footballer. Oh, Golazzo! I don't know where that came from, but it's memories of the past. Stargale Diaz in the House, Ireland, Land of the Revolution, Francis P. Jeremiah Johnson, Nikki Cyprus, Tara Scully, and Liam Kelly gives us a 5x5. Uh, where do we even start? Today was a bit of a turn up for the books. A couple of video presentations from the Oireachtas committee meeting today, chaired by our friend, I don't say our friend easily, Michael McNamara. Some interesting takeaways there from that conversation, particularly from the what's his name again? What was his name again? Ah, come on, Johan Gesik, Dr. Johan Gesik at the Oireachtas meeting today, giving his consultation to the Irish Parliament in relation to the plans moving forward with the epidemic COVID-19 and all of the rest of that COVID-19 pandemic as we press on through. Got to try and remain a little bit easy there. Just give that camera a wee bit of a break. Hopefully, be returning to normal drills shortly. Still in secret maneuvers, shall we say, in the background. So I have a kind of a thread of thought leading up to one or two video takeaways from today's meeting at the Oireachtas as the room fills up. Great to see 187 in the house already. And as we always do, please, before we get started, don't forget don't forget to visit our friends over at the Little Farmer. The Little Farmer, we love our enzymes so much, we keep them alive. Wheatgrass and barley grass juice, full of antioxidants. Just shake and shoot. Don't forget to enter in your promo code GT over at their website there for a sizable discount. And don't forget to support Irish business coming under continuous attack from the mindless, great unwashed. Everything is kind of centered again on COVID situation. One or two here's from Dr. Urso, a Twitter handle who has been pushing out and positing stuff on the HCQ situation. Moving on then to Belgium's removal of the PCR test. We spoke on it this morning. We extrapolated a little bit more on the power function, and I know I was paraphrasing slightly, but we brought you one or two video presentations. Gonna have to ease it up on the video presentations as well. Gulag does not like plenty of warnings coming out there. Stop what you're doing. Desist in those actions. Desist in that dissension. Have you got a license for that thought? I didn't think so. No anecdotal stories today from friends. Been taking care of business today, shall we say? Let me get started by first. One of the video presentations here is just a list of the different doctors, but I want you to pay attention to what the last gentleman says at the very end. Good evening, Jenny. Good evening, saints and scholars. James, my good friend in there, moderating for the channel, and our good friend Binks Weeble also. Let's have a listen to this one first of all.
Well, again, say thank you for the privilege of being able to talk to you. My view is that the most important thing, as Dr. Gisela alluded to, is social cohesion and political stability. I think many people have completely underestimated how divisive and this epidemic and pandemic can be, and we've seen it in some other countries. So my view is that what we can do with decision making that is yet open, debated and transparent, but yet keeps us together as a people is really essential. If we fracture, then we won't succeed.
Thank you. Professor Ryan.
Thank you again for the inclusive discussion. I think we need more of this as a country. I think that we need to move from a reactive way of dealing with the virus to a long-term, realistic, proactive strategy. It needs a lot of public discussion and inclusiveness. I think a lot of the discussion that we've been having in this country has been about health versus the economy. That's how we're talking about it. What we really mean is we're discussing 2019 versus 2020. I think we need to accept that the world of 2019 is not coming back to us anytime soon. We need to face this. We need to put all of the different choices on the table and compare the outcomes of them side by side. What would each strategic option really be like for us to live with? And then what one do we want to choose as a society?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Professor Schaefer. Yeah, again, I would like to thank the committee for giving me the opportunity to speak here. And as the other speakers, I think the most important thing is an open debate. And I think so far we just haven't had enough debate about the different approaches, an open debate about what data, what facts are out there, and how do we want to proceed from here. I think it would be a good starting point.
Thank you very much. And lastly, Dr. Giesecke.
Two things. Watch out for undemocratic decisions that are using emergency legislation in a case when it may not be needed. That's number one. Number two is this will be with us for a long time. We will have to learn to live with this virus, unless a very good vaccine comes up before Easter, which I doubt.
Or until an alternative therapeutic is with us. COVID-19 will indeed be with us, as it is a global cyclical event. It is part now of a family of coronaviruses that will be traversing the globe. Will be traversing the globe in a seasonal, every season. I wanted to touch in there, Liz Pepper, as well, on the Swedish doctor. I do have a follow-up video from Dr. Gisek. Apologies for the pronunciation, but what he advocates then is for the herd immunity, the same reason or the same model that Sweden used. Now, Sweden has been much vaunted as being having carried out the correct procedure in opening up its economy and carrying on with normal and protecting the very vulnerable in its society, as he says in the following video, 60 and above, which we should be highlighting on. But I want to track back to what my good friend Stefan from Sanity for Sweden also said, that the very reason that the Swedish economy and that the lockdowns didn't transpire was because some 10 to 12 years previous, there was a huge scandal with some vaccinations that were issued in Sweden some 10 or 12 years ago, and some 500 to 600 young citizens of Sweden had developed a form of narcolepsy, and they brought their case through the Swedish government and challenged the pharmaceutical company that produced the vaccine, and they were effectively wiped out. But it was it's now people in Sweden's aversion to listening to medical tyranny, because I think what transpired because of the vaccine rollout in Sweden affected the community so much that I think they made it constitutional that no medical tyranny would supersede the Constitution. What of the Republic of Ireland's Constitution? Very much copied, pasted, and with amendments put on into suit and steer the Constitution away. But we could have had or should have something similar here, but through bodily autonomy. Now, going back, I'm going to jump into this first one here, just a Twitter thread in relation to the HCQ. Dr. Urso, and again, not check marked, but again, this is just information bringing to your attention. HCQ is vaccine light. This is in response to a new data Lancet study that was posted today, and it stipulates that no COVID-19 related deaths in patients on HCQ for rheumatic conditions versus 7 deaths in groups not receiving HCQ. He makes the analogy then, because you may become PCR positive because you will likely produce attenuated dead viral particles. You told you the PCR blows up whatever particles you might have in your body. You could have coronavirus, you could have, as they say, attenuated dead viral particles from years ago, and the PCR will blow them up and modify them. Doesn't mean that it's positive that you have it, but it means that it's present in your system. Obviously, you will develop you may get no or mild moderate disease. You will not. You will develop immunity, and you will live. HCQ works, and it's vaccine-like. And that Lancet, and I'll throw that link out there as we go through the second video presentation. But the Lancet paper there is the paper cited, and primary and secondary outcomes are for the propensity matched comparison of patients treated with hydroxychloroquine versus patients not receiving hydroxychloroquine. But the takeaway point there is no deaths with the control group that did receive the HCQ. So it's permeating, it's coming through. We have it there, a therapeutic that seems to have near enough 99.9% efficacy, can indeed be taken prophylactically. But those that be and the powers that be have told doctors and issued a letter to practices throughout the country over here not to prescribe hydroxychloroquine because of the demand for it. and they want to try and they said they wanted to maintain the store for the current people that have been receiving prescriptions for that rheumatoid arthritis. So in essence, blocking off the chain. But we should be ordering them in because the tablet form is indeed cheaper alternative, not this couple of hundred per vaccine that they'll want to roll out every 6 months. And that will lead us into what I may see many of you would see was a retraction from the Irish Times today after a complaint was lodged by a Mr. David Quinn. I will touch on that article as well, but I want to bring forward the article that preceded that preceded the retraction, and it's not the specific, I have it there. I do have it up already. Okay, and I want to bring this one here. We'll go on first of all now here with Belgium Security Council introduces a long-term strategy, but we'll get through this one here first of all. Let me throw that one up. Belgium Security Council introduces long-term coronavirus strategy. This from today. Belgium has yet again adopted the measures in place to curb the spread of coronavirus in the country, announced Prime Minister Sophia Willems during a press conference on Wednesday. Quote, "We had already announced in the last press conference that we would be looking for a long-term strategy," said Willems, adding that in order to understand this crisis properly, it needs to be broken down into 3 phases. During the first period, the emphasis was on containing the virus to ensure that healthcare was not overwhelmed, pretty much what we were told. And during the second phase, a gradual phasing out of the measures started. Quote, "That brings us to the third phase, risk management," said Willems. "In this way, we are trying to return to a situation that is as normal as possible in the long term, for which systems can be worked out together with the experts from Calaville. The 6 golden rules remain a key point, and Willems stressed the importance of sticking to them at all times. Limiting social contacts will be done with a modular approach, meaning that the rules may change depending on the epidemiological situation. Instead of the social bubble, there will be a reference number that will be varied between 1 and 5, depending on the health situation. At the moment, experts recommend a maximum of 5 close contacts per person per month. The rule concerning social contacts is especially important. Physically close to someone who does not live under the same roof for more than 15 minutes without keeping a distance and without a face mask. Apart from those close contacts, people can see as many people as they want, as long as they keep their distance and respect hygiene rules. However, meeting more than 10 people is not allowed. From the 1st of October, face masks will only be mandatory in crowded places as well as public transport and in cinemas, for example. It is useless to make masks compulsory anytime, anywhere, Willems said, calling on local authorities to comply with the change and not keep the rule in unnecessary places. For gatherings, a difference is made between private and professional gatherings. For private gatherings, the maximum number of guests remains at 10. This also applies to the gathering in the streets. Professionally organised events will follow the same rules as the hospitality industry. There will be no limit on the maximum number of guests allowed, as it will depend on the capacity of the place. The protocols must still be followed, and the dance parties are still not allowed. Can't get your groove on. For events with an audience, however, the limit remains on 200 people for our indoor events and 400 for outdoor ones. The authorities are working on an epidemic barometer at a national, provincial and regional level to make sure that everyone understands the course of the epidemic better. The levels will be determined mainly, but not exclusively, by the number of people admitted to hospital. The mandatory quarantine period will be reduced from 14 days to 1 week. People who show COVID-19 symptoms still have to contact their doctor on day 5 of the quarantine, and a new test can be taken. If negative, people may leave quarantine after the week is up. If positive, the quarantine will be extended for a full 2 weeks. People returning from orange travel zones will no longer be tested. People returning from a red zone will go on a quarantine for the first day of their return and be tested on day 5. The Corona Alert smartphone will be launched on 3rd September. When more information on the subject will be given. Do not fall into the trap of nonchalance. We have to find a way to make the 6 golden rules our own rules. Tackling the epidemic also depends on our behaviour, and we all take part in the solution. As always, take care of yourself and take care of each other. I wasn't specifically going in the direction where I was thinking, but it leads off that they are at least reducing and scaling back. That is a road to absolutely rescinding the medical emergencies altogether. At least it's a clear pathway there. We don't seem to be having much of the similar situation over here. Now, regardless, I don't know whether I don't know whether Dr. Johan's advice will be followed up, but he, in his summation during today's proceedings at the Oireachtas, and I'll say everybody else was in lockstep, everybody saying there is no new normal, and the 2019 is of yesteryear, 2020 going forward. Balderdash, absolute balderdash. We can get back to some semblance if we effectively turn off the television, is what I'd say to you. First of all, no television, no virus, get on with your life. Not medical advice, obviously. But if this is what the government are paying attention to, this is what was recorded in the Oireachtas meeting today, at the very least, Sweden's models and Swedish experts seem to have it right.
Even a soft lockdown like we have had in Sweden can be quite effective. And I think it could be effective in other countries as well, where you trust people and rely more on voluntary measures than on laws and regulations. People are not stupid. If you tell them what they should do to protect themselves and to protect others, they will generally follow what you tell them without any policing in the streets and so on. Do not build your strategy on the imminent advent of a vaccine. We might have to wait for it, and it may not be very effective in those who need it most. If you compare to flu vaccine, for example, which works less or not so well in old people as in young people. I think you should allow a controlled spread of the disease for people below 60, but concentrate on the old and frail, and that should really be intensive. Keep your schools open. Sweden has done that all the time, and it's interesting as an aside that Finland locked its schools and Sweden did not. And there was a comparison about a month ago, a number of school children having been infected in Sweden and in Finland, and there's no difference at all. We should all realize, and I think this is important, that the epidemic itself, as well as the countermeasures, hurt marginalized people most. It's the poor and the marginalized who will hurt most from the epidemic and from the lockdowns and whatever measures we propose. Also, COVID is sometimes regarded as a mystical, supernatural disease. It is a viral respiratory infection with its own characteristics, but it is a respiratory viral infection. We have seen many of those. It's not something completely new, COVID.
It's not something completely new. It will be with us for some time, as it will always be, but we can build up that herd immunity. As you said, he recommends that people under 60 should just get up and get on with it and maintain their own procedures and protect other people as much as possible. Washing their hands is solutions, not with alcohol, removing layers and layers off your skin and giving yourself skin blisters, but just normal ablutions when you need to, when it's appropriate, and you're adult enough now to take care of yourself. Obviously, we don't need the nanny state pushing us on and telling us how to wipe our asses and blow our noses effectively. So he said we should concentrate on those that are most vulnerable, particularly the nursing homes, which should have been sectioned off. And as Live Chat mentioned it, for the first time in medical history, we've quarantined the healthy instead of quarantined the sick. And we've used herd immunity throughout the ages, and it seems to have worked effectively for so long. I'm just drifting off there because I'm trying to lead in to the meat and bones of tonight's discussion, tonight's disquisition. As I lead it out, I'm going to read out a case. I'm going to read out an article that's not so very old, but it's still in collation, and it's in relation to a mumps outbreak over here in the Republic of Ireland. That will lead on to further discussion, which we won't be able to cover in its entirety tonight, but I will have a follow-up on it. But I want to read through the two articles, and the second of it being the retraction from the letter of complaint submitted by Mr. David Quinn, not the same as the journalist over here, but another namesake. So we're going to correlate it through, and we're going to focus this and keep it on. This is in relation to a mumps. This is the mumps virus. This is the mumps vaccine. This is in relation to the requirement of it in the first place, and also leading on then to what's known as secondary failure. This means that the vaccine starts to wane. It means that the effectiveness of the vaccine dissipates over a period of time. It's not the one jab cures all immunity forever that it was posited of in an article. This actually goes right back to 1984, I believe that article points up. I've just been sniffing around and tracing it and doing some vicarious research on it, and a lot of information pushed towards me as well. But the effectiveness, that was there a requirement for this mumps vaccine in the first place? Now that the vaccine was introduced into our into the, how shall I say it, into our society. God, I'm having a brain fart there tonight. But was there a need for the vaccine in the first place? Now that the vaccine is in place, what has it produced? Has it produced its own problems that weren't necessarily there in relation to the mumps part of the vaccine? And with the secondary waning, that there was need for follow-up. There was a need for follow-up vaccinations. And now that has gone since only needing one for lifetime immunity to needing a second booster, to needing a third and a fourth, possibly a fifth booster now. But I'm going to jump into the articles. Bear with me, live chat. But I think you'll get where we're going with this. And like I say, we will follow up. We have more to follow up. Possibly this weekend, hopefully. But I'll start off here with this one in the Irish Limes from March the 11th in 2020 here. And this might have been a sort of a lead out from the clarification that they were giving in relation to this, the mumps breakout. Over 200 mumps cases reported in Ireland last week, the HSE says, and the outbreak of the viral infection began in 2018 with teens and young adults hardest hit. But that's the category that we will be dealing on. If from 15 to 24 is the age group, particularly young males, and their fertility, having contracted the mumps after receiving vaccine, or having got a dose of it because of secondary failure and the waning of the vaccine. But anyway, let's just jump into this. Scroll it out there. Where's that jumping? Drop that down. Post that up. A large mumps outbreak in Ireland is persisting, with 213 new cases reported last week, according to the HSE's Health Protection Surveillance Centre. Most cases of the acute viral infection have been recorded among teenagers and young adults. This national outbreak started in 2018, spread to all areas of the country last year, and is continuing. Since mid-January, cases have been occurring at a far higher rate than at any time last year, which was the biggest outbreak in a decade. The worst affected part of the state is the Greater Dublin area, where it has seen some 498 cases this year, followed by the Southern Health Board area with 491 cases. There have been 711 cases among the 20 to 24-year-olds, while in the 15 to 19-year age category, 585 people have got the infection. And I don't believe those, even though after the clarification, that article is still up, because that information is compromised as well. But we'll follow up on that. Mumps is spread from person to person, and symptoms include fever, headache, tiredness, and swollen, tender salivary glands. It often gives the appearance of swollen cheeks or jaw. Quote, if you have mumps symptoms, you should stay at home, not go to school or work, and phone your GP and explain that you may have mumps. The best protection against mumps is to be fully vaccinated with 2 doses of the MMR, measles, mumps, rubella vaccine, the HPSC added. Anyone aged between 11 and 30 years of age who have not had 2 doses of the vaccine can get it for free. There are similar outbreaks in the UK, where almost half of the laboratory confirmed cases reported last year were in unvaccinated people, with the highest incidence rates being among those born in the late 1990s and early 2000s who missed out on the MMR vaccine when they were younger. There is a similar profile in Ireland. Now, that paragraph there, that's what we need to focus on there, because that is, careful now, GT, careful. I'll let the second article explain it a lot better. These cohorts are now old enough to attend college and university and are likely to continue fueling the epidemic during this year, public health specialists have predicted. Let's jump straight over to the retraction, because it gives a lot more detail, and we will go through this in its entirety. Bear with, but I think it's very important we go through this together. So Mr. David Quinn and the Irish Times about 13 hours ago this morning, very important that we cover this. Pay attention, class, settle down at the back, drop your milkshakes and listen in. Today, the Press Council of Ireland has upheld an appeal made by Mr. David Quinn against the decision of the Press Ombudsman. The Press Ombudsman had decided that the Irish Times had offered to take and took sufficient action to resolve a complaint made by Mr. Quinn under the Principle 1, Truth and Accuracy of the Code of Practice of the Press Council of Ireland. The appeal was upheld on the grounds that the Press Ombudsman had erred in this application of the Code of Practice because the Irish Times had not corrected the article in a manner that was in accordance with Principle 1 of the Code. On the 12th of February 2020, the Irish Times published an article in its print edition under the heading, quote, surging numbers of new cases of mumps, and in its online edition under the heading, quote, 1,000 new cases of mumps recorded in the first 6 weeks of the year. Both versions included a claim in relation to the increase that, although non-vaccination is a significant factor, waning immunity has also played a role. That's where I was leading you down there, to the waning effect of the vaccine. It's actually reducing in its efficiency and is actually leaving young adults open to the mumps rubella at a critical stage when it will cause them severely more damage, i.e. sterility. Mr. Quinn wrote to the editor of the Irish Times stating that the claim about the proportion of unvaccinated people getting the mumps was clearly untrue. The Slimes has reported that it was because there's a high probability because of the unvaccinated percentage of people that were presenting that it was due to them being unvaccinated. That is clearly not the case. So we continue. According to the HPSC, the Health Protection Surveillance Centre, and the Eurosurveillance.org website, only 8% of the cases in Ireland in 2018 were unvaccinated. And between August 2018 and January 2020, only 12% of cases were unvaccinated. Mr. Quinn asked that this significant inaccuracy be corrected promptly and with due prominence. In a follow-up mail to the Irish Times, Mr. Quinn provided several links to reports that the increase in mumps worldwide was primarily due to waning immunity amongst vaccinated people. Let me say that again. Mr. Quinn provided several links to reports that the increase in mumps, and we're only focusing on mumps, worldwide was primarily due to the waning immunity amongst vaccinated people. He also noted that the online version of the article had been amended. He asked the editor, is this an acknowledgement that the original article was incorrect? He noted that there had been no attempt in the print edition to put the record straight. Mr. Quinn made a formal complaint to the Office of the Press Ombudsman. The editor of the Irish Times defended what had been published, noting that 68% of the people who had got mumps in the Eurosurveillance.org research had not given their vaccination status, and that it seemed, quote, reasonable to assume that a significant proportion of the persons who did not report a vaccination status were not actually vaccinated. He further noted that Dr. Suzanne Cotter of the Health Protection Surveillance Centre, quote, maintains that mumps are more likely to occur among unvaccinated people or those who had received only one dose of vaccine. He added that the online article had been amended, quote, on foot of Mr. Quinn's complaint from, quote, although most cases have involved unvaccinated people, to, quote, although non-vaccination is a significant factor, end quote. The editor offered to publish a correction in the print edition of the newspaper. Mr. Quinn responded that the offer to publish a correction in the print edition, quote, does not go far enough. He also claimed that the editor's reference to Dr. Coulter's views were an attempt to, quote, obfuscate the matter, drawing attention to a report on mumps amongst 15 to 24-year-olds in Northern Ireland, where the majority of those in that age group who got mumps had received 2 doses of the MMR vaccine. He also claimed that his complaint about the online article, quote, had not been addressed sufficiently or promptly. As the complaint could not be resolved by conciliation, it was forwarded to the Press Ombudsman for a decision. The decision of the Press Ombudsman, there is clearly disagreement about the efficacy of the MMR vaccine in protecting people against mumps. Let's reiterate that one again as well. there is clearly disagreement about the efficacy of the MMR vaccine in protecting people against mumps. Mr. Quinn has cited reports that many people who have been vaccinated have reduced or lost their immunity. It is quite clear, however, that the medical authorities fundamentally believe in the importance of the MMR vaccine and the role it plays in preventing the spread of mumps. Mr. Quinn believes the article was inaccurate in its reference to the proportion of unvaccinated people who get mumps. The Irish Times, by amending the article online, acknowledged that it was, or as originally worded, needed addressing. It is my view that Mr. Quinn's concerns were addressed adequately by the amendment of the article online. Principle 1.3 of the Code requires, when appropriate, a clarification shall be published promptly and with due prominence. I note that the article currently online includes reference to it having been edited, while Mr. Quinn disagrees. I believe this is a sufficient acknowledgement of the need for an amendment to the original article. I would have preferred if readers of the article today were provided with more information on the nature of the edit, but nonetheless, I find that sufficient action was taken to address Mr. Quinn's complaint, and therefore I find no breach of Principle 1. In regard to the print edition of the article, the offer by the editor to publish a correction was sufficient to address the requirement found in Principle 1.3 of the Code. The decision of the Press Council on the 4th of September 2020, the Press Council upheld the appeal submitted by Mr. Quinn on the grounds that the Press Ombudsman had erred in his application of Principle 1 of the Code of Practice. Huge! The Press Council of Ireland was upheld an appeal made by Mr. David Quinn against the decision of the Press Ombudsman. The Press Ombudsman had decided that the Irish Times had offered to take sufficient action to resolve a complaint made by Mr. Quinn under Principle 1, Truth and Accuracy of the Code of Practice of the Press Council of Ireland. The appeal was upheld on the grounds that the Press Ombudsman had erred in his application of the Code of Practice because the Irish Times had not corrected the article in a manner that was in accordance with Principle 1 of the Code. On the 11th of March 2020, under the heading Over 200 Mumps Cases Reported in Ireland Last Week, HSE says, the Irish Times reported on an outbreak of mumps in Ireland. The report included a statement from Health Protection Surveillance Centre that, quote, the best protection against mumps is to be fully vaccinated with 2 doses of the MMR, measles, mumps, rubella vaccine. The report also stated that, quote, there had been a similar outbreak in the UK where almost half of the laboratory confirmed cases reported last year were in unvaccinated people, with the highest incidence rates amongst those born in the later 1990s and 2000s who missed out on the MMR vaccine when they were younger. It was further stated that there is a similar profile in Ireland. Mr. Quinn wrote to the Irish Times stating that the article implied that almost half the cases of mumps in Ireland were in unvaccinated people. He stated that the latest statistic he had seen from the HPSC was that in 2018, only 8% of cases of mumps in Ireland occurred in unvaccinated people. The Irish Times responded stating that the statistics in the report were accurate and that the health authority sources in Ireland, it referenced HPSC research when it said and confirmed that whilst the majority of cases in the current outbreak, and again, going through that article there, I didn't realize we are going back over it there again, but I will scroll down to the decision of the Press Ombudsman here. We went through that there through the Code of Practice. And I'll just finish up here with the decision of the Press Ombudsman. I have concluded that the paper offered to take sufficient action to resolve this complaint by offering to publish a letter and to remove from the online report the sentence that is the centre of the complaint. Principle 1 of the Code of Practice states, and again, I'll drop the link out to you there, but the decision of the Press Council on the 4th of September 2020 is the Press Council upheld the appeal submitted by Mr. Quinn on the grounds that the Press Ombudsman had erred in his application of Principle 1. So in essence, what are we driving at there? Let me drop that down there. Let me switch to Maru here. So I said to you, I made mention of an article that was first pushed out in 1984 by Dr. Nolan, who, doctor back in 1984, he was a doctor of the time who wrote regularly for the Irish Times. And in that article, which I have a hard copy from their archives, still reading through it, but in it, he says that since it's a mild disease, this is in relation to mumps here in Ireland, Since it's a mild disease, self-limiting with no permanent or important consequences, the decision on whether or not to get immunized against it, which has been made personally in consultation with one's doctor. In America, most people do get the vaccination, but most don't. And an attack of the illness itself confers lifelong immunity. What we've always known, what the aunties, uncles, dogs in the street, because for me in my age group, I got it. People my age, we got it. Never had a trouble with it since. And I'm reading through that furthermore into that article. It says there is no data available for mumps incidences in Ireland prior to 1988. We didn't think of it so much as of a problem that prior to 1988, we never kept records of it because we didn't consider it a notifiable disease, as it was quoted in the article. But it is clear that it is considered to be mostly a mild prepubescent disease. So if you get it when you're young, it can have, make you feel very uncomfortable, make you feel very uncomfortable again with a fever, with everything that goes with the virus. But it is, in essence, it's the best time when your immune system is on track to deal with it, replicate it, and give you and confer to you lifelong immunity. The introduction of the MMR has changed the profile of those getting the mumps now, and it is primarily those in the 15 to 24-year-old age group. It is more of an issue for this group, and it can affect males' fertility. This comes in conjunction with what I was saying to you earlier on about the second failure, the waning effect of the vaccination, because as particulates go throughout the herd, i.e. us, the vaccination efficacy is reduced and dampens down and down again, and it's leaving that age group, 15 to 24, to more exposure to complications should they contract the mumps at that age group, and primarily then being fertility. The medical authorities claim that you are more susceptible to these problems if you're unvaccinated, but the main reason it's affecting this age group is the introduction of the vaccine and its waning effectiveness. So that brings us back to the primary failure. Primarily, was there a need for a vaccine in the first place because we already can deal with it ourselves if we are introduced to it at an early age. If you are lucky enough to contract it in that age group, which was very slight because the virus, you all remember, life chat, you know what your nanny and your granddad did. Oh, see, young Johnny down the road, number 8, he's after picking up the old mumps. Oh, is that true? You, get down the road there, they're having a house party. Yeah, you're 6, get down there. Everybody down to Johnny's house. Everybody got it. Everybody felt like shit for 6 months. But everybody in the street knew that was the best time to get it because you were given herd immunity, in essence. So there's also, this also goes back to a Lancet report that was Smith, and I'm going to mention his name because this name is ostracized in all corners of the medical community, Andrew Wakefield. Andrew Wakefield produced a Lancet report that has since been subjected or retracted. But the premise that most doctors or medical experts were citing was the connection between what we're all talking about, even in the HPV vaccine on trial books. But we're not going to steer towards the autism or the spectrum end of it. We're not going to look at this. We're going to focus primarily on the mumps because it's happening now and it's more tangible for people to understand the concept of the herd immunity as it relates. And this is in relation to the COVID-19 as it's playing out in front of us. But the press constantly refers to this paper by Andrew Wakefield that has since been retracted by the Lancet, he made a link claiming between MMR and autism. But in that link, which I will now drop out to you in the live chat to that paper, because it is a hard paper to get a hold of, and I know you'll want to view this and peruse it for yourself. But if you read through it, he did not make a link in any way, shape, or form. But the press constantly likes to cite that Lancet report there. That's in there for you there now, live chat. And to make the assertion that he said that there was a clear and tangible link between the vaccines and autism, when clearly he did not say that. Go read the article. The real reason that they came after Wakefield is that he had the temerity to suggest parents opt out of the separate vaccines until more research was done. So you remember, I know I got separate vaccinations, not the combination of vaccines that they're pumping out in the 11-to-1 and bordering on up to 15-to-1, 15 different particulates pumped into our kids. When this article and this whole set in relation to mumps is tying in the need Was there any real need for it in the first place? And now that you have introduced it, have you now created a problem? Which I think the Irish Times, the Irish Times and the rest of them were trying to kind of, whitewash or memory hold it as such. But it's only through the due diligence of Mr. David Quinn and his reporting of the facts, and he was made it possible for the Ombudsman to uphold the decision to correct the record, because the publication in the press was trying to pin the blame on unvaccinated, the 8% of people that had presented, and that they were unvaccinated, and that they'd used the figures of those that didn't report back and added them to the case reportings, and then firmly tried to blame it on, well, you're unvaccinated, that's where you got it. Apart from which, there is evidence that the mumps element is not that effective, and that it wanes over time, which raises the prospect of boosters every 10 or 15 years. Now that they're beginning to understand that the mumps part of it is beginning to wane and fail, now that you're going to have, should you have started on the course or on the trajectory of it, you've got it first time already. Now you're going to have a booster every 10 or 15 years so that you don't contract it later in when there was no need for it at all. That makes sense, everybody? Everybody got a hold of that? That's playing out. And again, I'm still digging into that. There is a document out there, like I said, in the Irish Times archive by the Dr. Nowlan. And I want to reiterate the point as well. He said that since it's a mild disease, since mumps is a self-limiting and with no permanent or important consequences, decision on not whether to get immunized against it, which was made by it personally. We were given the choice. You could either get it if you felt you need for it, and it would be done under consultation with your doctor. In America, they most do, but we didn't, and we've seen the benefit. We haven't had it, but now the mumps is coming back again. I would say, because of the global trafficking, no, not global trafficking, but the global movement of people, that some people would have brought it back in, and those that thought they had protection under the vaccine are now quite clearly done, because the vaccine is starting to fail. It's secondary failure. It's waning, so it's not producing a good job. Okay, I hope that made sense to everybody. I hope that indeed made sense to everybody there as well. Like I said, I haven't finished on it, and I will be speaking to someone very important, and we will give it a thorough background. We will drill down into it, and there's a whole trail to it gone. I only recently got to touch in with it there today, but effectively, that's why we're making the comparison today. That's why today's article and today's retraction is important for those people to see how they reported on that fact and try to frame it in the unvaccinated people, giving the impression then that a vaccination was primarily the only way to deal with it. No, God, we have our God-given immune system, our God-given one. Yes, I said it. I said it. I said it. God, where are we on? 42 minutes. Well, I think that's going to round us off for this evening. I think we've dropped a lot out there for you. Then, before I forget, with the couple of more people on board in the background, I call them the Spanner Monkeys. Spanner Monkeys, oh! Spanner Monkeys are out and about in various aspects of the Grand Torino schism sphere, working out in the background. I remind you, and I make you remind you to get yourself onto Telegram if you haven't already done so. Should the inevitable happen, or we might get deplatformed, we don't know. But I am currently running the Telegram page. There's a link to it in the description box there to the Telegram page. Please fill it up and come join. Come join me over there for morning, for little outbursts here every now and again. But the Spanner Monkeys are also in the background helping out to run the Telegram page. And in that page, then you'll also see some of Torino's hopeful eclectic Spotify mix. Go in there and in on the links. Not only will you get some of the video presentations and some other stuff that we talked to, but I provide you here with this playlist of hopeful synthetic future, and also this Eurocentric playlist from Torino's Eurocentric playlist. Just another little thing for you to fill up your mindset during the day, and join me for some Rigoletto, some Tchaikovsky, and some little bit of bagatelle. And some classical music, and we go on to some synth music. But I'll be dropping a playlist every now and again, and a big shout out to the Spanner Monkeys in the background. Francis B says, I've subbed to you on the Telegram ages ago, GT. Yeah, no, I just started getting active on it over there as well. Let's have a look at some of your comments there today, this evening, and see what we have there. 393 on my screen here. I'm not sure of the likes, but please, if you haven't done so already, please smite that like button. If you think any of the information that we've proffered to you is of any gain, we do appreciate your support. Thank you very much. Like I say, no stream tomorrow morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is a Thursday. Got a lot of bit of charging around to do. Actually feeling this lack of wheels really hobbles me. I can't get out and about as much as I want. Binks has just dropped the link. Our good friend Binks, the moderator over there. There's a link to the Telegram group that Binks has just dropped in the live chat for those of you casually viewing. For those of you that have missed the live event or the live version of this thing of ours, where we like to get together at 9 a.m. in the morning, Greenwich Mean Time, and also 8 p.m. in the evening as a sort of a follow-up to what we've discussed in the morning. I noticed many of you busy during the day have managed to catch up with this morning's episode and are now here for the live presentation. Delighted to have your company. I'm not going to waffle on anymore. I'm going to give you a roll call because we won't be together with each other. We won't be together tomorrow. No more singing, GT. Stop it with the messing. And unfortunately, I cannot play COVID Likes to Party. It does. Too many strikes coming from the redundant, treacherous echo chamber, smiting the mighty GT. So we won't be playing it for there again, but I do believe that a link. Binks, will you throw up, please, to the live chat members, the YouTube channel that has got it himself, Patrick Sullivan. Is it Patrick Sullivan or Patrick Oliver? I know our good friend there. I'll wait for him to throw it up so that I do give him his due. And I apologies, I didn't see where it first came from, but I have been promoting it out there. So I do hope you get a couple of good hits out of that as we wait for our good friend Binks to throw the link up. Live chat, I'm just going to go through the end. There it is there. COVID Likes the Party. Binks has just thrown the link up to it there as well. So make sure you download it again and enter it into your ringtone. And then make sure when you're out and about, get somebody to call it that so that mind virus spreads on and everybody's singing. Love to see your TikTok versions or your inputs of you having the COVID Likes the Party soundtrack in the background in various places and locations, like an online, I forgot the terminology. God darn it, check it, fracking getting old. Peace Poppy says Liverpool lose 61 today. GT, great performance tonight. Appreciate that. Liverpool lose 61. Flash mob Jenny, what would I do without you, girl? What would I do without you? Like an online flash mob. Make up your own one. Do it randomly. Take the mask off. Sing. Cause all sorts of craziness, and let's make some viral music together. Oh, you and I together. Okay, Lloyd, give me a quick second here. Please, before I let you go, please don't forget, press that like button if you haven't done so already. Hit the subscription button and the bell, and you'll be reminded of future broadcasts here in the Grand Torino. Please, if you could, leave your thoughts, comments, and witticisms in the comment section down below. We do love to read through them afterwards and engage with you over there. As again, you know, the channel is demonetized. We will rely solely on your beneficial and your subscriptions. Big shout out to all of you that are purchasing over on the Teespring link. And also those of you supporting over the Grand Torino website, World Wide Web, grandtorino.ie/donations. And if you could, I have got a plethora of letters there from the PO box. I will try and get through them and read through your ruminations in your letters. Really appreciate that. And as I let you go there, we will do a roll call now, ladies in the live chat. Let her rip, Tater Chip. All the best to you as well, Sean Thornton. Thanks to you. Drogheda in the house from Jed D. Drogheda. Hello, Drogheda. Careful up there if they're trying to sell you to the Chinese. Oh, GT, why did you have to say that? Appreciate that, Alan. Like I said to you before we jump into it, I will have more follow-up information on the retraction, the stuff behind it there, and the article in relation to the doctor back in 1984 who framed it and said that we didn't necessarily need it. Okay, let's have a look. Karen Burns is in the Jersey Shore at 60. GT Raging Cajuns on the M50. Us, big brother. We've got Hoax 2020 is in Drogheda 37. Binks Weebuff is 55 in the Great Nova Scotia. Cruising on a land, we got Turfbog Time Machine 31 from East Limerick or to the Axe. Mary's Board is 48 in Leash. Us. The Dirty Pox is in Finglas, Mexico. How are you going, the Dirty Pox? I love it. Go on out at your Dirty Pox. I'm sorry for the colloquialisms, but it's very funny, very funny. You have to be there. Michael John Dennis is 49 in Manchester. Missing Dunshaughlin, John Doyle is 43 in Sagar. John and Trish, we like to party. We do. Stargirl D is in California at 55. Jeremiah Johnson, 27 in the Rocky Mountains. Still looking, I like that. Jeremiah Johnson. Liz Pepper is in Tala, 52. James Fury, great interjection, great conversation with you there this morning. James, 40. Slán. Margaret Rooney is in Communist Scotland at 53. Maeve Irish is 41. County Sligo. Kaz. Keisha is 45 in South Dublin. Pepe Yadawaki is 54 in Rosslare. Katie Daly, great lady, is 55 in Dunshaughlin, South Dublin. Jenny O'Driscoll, having a real conversation. Silmiata is 64 in South Dublin. Ragnar, 49 today from Valhalla D-Live. Happy birthday, Ragnar, my old fruit. There's a birthday present there, Ragnar. I think that deserves a spanner. Big congratulations to Ragnar on his... Oh, don't do that. Don't do that. There we go. Big congratulations to Ragnar on his Spear of Destiny as he gets a spanner. Jerry Tobin is 53 in Cavan. John Francis. Jenny Driscoll is 37 in Cork. Thanks to you as well, Jenny. Thanks for all that you do, the pair of you. Free to Speak is Claire in her 60s. No Boy, Nicky Bourne is 65 in New Jersey. D5 Patriot getting closer to the big 4-0 for 1P, man. And Mike O is 50 in PA, Pennsylvania, USA. Great to see you, Patriot. Thanks for joining me. Jacinta Chadwick is Dublin, 71. Great stuff, Jacinta. E. Ed is 44 in Galway. Breaking Point 2014 is in Mayo, 56. Teresa Dunn is in Santry. Open Minds is 47 and is living on a prayer. Oh, we're halfway there. Oh, living on a prayer. Not Amused is 59 in County Limerick. Hello from Harold's Cross from Anna Sis. Great to see you, Anna. Twin Cam Dill is Kyle. El Paso, 33. Coolio, 73 is 47 and he's pickled in vodka. Great to know. Scrolling on down there, everybody's having a great conversation. And John, 47, is in Dundee and is totally not surprised. Noreen Lonigan is 50 in South Tipperary. Mama Bear shouts a big happy birthday to Ragnar. And we will let you go there, babies and gentlemen. Liam Kelly's in Wexford at 46. I think we squeezed everybody in. Apologies if I missed you. I will see you tomorrow evening. Guest or no guest, we might have a guest. I'm not sure. I have to confirm on that. Well, I'll see you tomorrow evening. I'll get up and have enjoyed the rest of your evening and enjoy your day tomorrow. And we'll see you again here tomorrow night. Big respect. Us.